Hi, welcome to the second part of this video series tutorial where we were discussing upon how we can perform CRUD operation using Spring Hibernate MySQL in a Maven project. So far in the previous tutorial, we have discussed about how we can create this project, how we have configured the entity, how we have configured the DAO interface and its related implementation. So where we have five methods to list all of the user, get a specific user by the username, and create, update, and delete user. So in this video, we are going to discuss about how we can configure the database configuration, what is the hybrid configuration which is required over here, and how we can perform the same. So remember one thing here, we are going to perform the configuration using annotations, just like we have explained in the previous video. So now, before we continue, let us again go back to our dependencies required. So already we have added this dependencies, Hibernate Entity Manager, Spring Context already we have added. Now the next one that we would require would be obviously we are connected to MySQL, so we have to add the dependency for MySQL connector. So let us add the dependency for MySQL. MySQL connected Java. Okay, so I can use any of the versions, but according to my installation, so I'm using MySQL 1.45. The latest version for MySQL 5. I'm using MySQL 5. So now I'm going to add it in form. Now along with that, we would require Spring ORM. Okay, and we would require Commons DBCP for the database connection pooling. Commons DBCP 2 rather. Now this is not the only way to create this application. If you want, you can create it without Commons DBCP, without configuring a database connection pool. But because I wanted you to show how to work with a basic data source, which can almost work with any type of databases, so that's why I'm using Commons DBCP. So now let's go back to the configuration and let's start off. So first of all, I'm going to create a bin. So public data source. It's a javax.sql data source. It's going to be the return type. Get data source. Now this method will act as the bean. This is the first bean declaration that I'm doing, within which I'm going for basic data source. I'm creating an object of that. Yeah. Now data source set URL, data source set driver class name, sorry, class name, data source set username and set password. Okay, and then you're going to return the data source. Now, for making it fast, I'm just going to copy the URL, class name, username, and password for my existing database available. So obviously the driver is com.mysql.jdbc.driver. Now this is a JDBC driver for MySQL. So if you want to access or use any other database, so you have to use that driver accordingly. So the username and the password both are root in my case. So you need to change it accordingly for your case. And the URL is this. This is how a database URL looks like. So this database is running in my machine in a port number 3306, which is the standardized port for MySQL. And I have created this database, which is called SampleDB. So this is my database data source configuration. Now I want to create one more method which will contain all the Hibernate properties. Okay. So Hibernate properties, so first of all, I'm going to create an object of properties. And then so what we are going to provide, so we are going to basically provide three properties. One would be dialect, second one would be HBM to DDL or .auto. That means what would be the behavior of the database connection. That means if the tables or the entities which I want to map with the table, if they are not available in the database, what will happen? Will it be created, or rather if it is there, it will be overwritten, or rather it will do nothing, it will throw an exception. So what will happen? Okay, so we have to define that. And obviously if you want to show the SQL statement generated by Hibernate in your console, you can define the third property. So first of all is the dialect. So the property name is hibernate.dialect, and then the class name where the MySQL dialect is there. Now you might ask from where I have got this MySQL dialect. Once Hibernate has been installed, I'm sorry, Hibernate dependency has been added. So here you can see so org.hibernate.dialect. Now within that you can find out MySQL 5 dialect. Okay, so this is from where I have got this dialect, and as you can see there are n number of dialects available for specific different databases. Like you have for MySQL, you have for Oracle, you have got for PostgreSQL. Okay, you have got for Teradata, you have got for Sybase, SQL Server, for even for H2. So almost for all major players in the market, you have got this dialects available. That's the first one. So next one would be HBM to DDL dot auto. That's one more property. And the next one would be whether the SQL statement generated will be shown or not. So we can use set property, or rather we can use put, any one of them, and then return properties. So what we will do with this, remember this is not a bean. We are going to use it in another bin that we are going to create now. So that is public session factory get session factory. In my previous video, I had explained what is a session factory, which generates session. What kind of a session? It generates database session. Okay, so that's why it's called session factory. So what would it require? First of all, it is going to be another bin. Second, it has to be auto-word with what? It has to be auto-word with data source. That means the data source bin which is created has to be injected into this. So we are going to create an object local session factory builder. Data source has been defined. Now session factory dot add, or yeah, add annotated classes. So in my case it is user dot class. That's the only class we want to use. So basically the entity class annotation which we are adding over here, and then we are going to return this. Yeah, and the Hibernate properties has to be provided. From where it will get the Hibernate property? It will get it from the method. Yeah. And then I can return session factory sorry, not the session factory, the session object. But build session factory. So it will be returning the session factory generated or built by this. Lastly, we would require a Hibernate transaction manager. Which again would require session factory to be injected. Yeah. Hence auto-word annotation has to be used here. So Hibernate transaction manager. Manager set session factory, this injected object. Okay, So we are good to go with this configuration. So our beans and Hibernate configuration has been successfully been configured. So in the next video, we will learn how to test whether the database connection has been successfully done and whether we are being able to perform CRUD operation through this application. But we are not going to write it inside any class. We are not going to call it from main and then run it. We are going to run it from a JUnit test case. So in the next video, we are going to learn how to do that. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching this video.